Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Today's guest is in the creative financing business, where the core asset is generally real estate, entertainment, communications of any kind, energy, sports, tax credit, or other asset components. He structures out-of-the-box deals in technology, new media, green energy, healthcare, and classifies himself as an industry agnostic. There is much more to know about my guest, so let's get to know Ken Sheppard. So welcome, Ken. I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm enjoying speaking with you. Appreciate the opportunity.
I am fascinated with this term, industry agnostic, as I have spent most of my life outside the crowd and not in the crowd. So I'm fascinated with out-of-the-box thinkers. So tell us a little bit about what is an industry agnostic?
Well, basically what that means is we don't focus on any particular sector. Like some people focus specifically on healthcare. Some people focus specifically on other industries. We are not specific to any industry. The only things we won't get involved with is something involving, like something you wouldn't see in church, pornography. Really not a big fan of the whole marijuana movement because I'm just not a fan of that. But in general, we've looked at lots of industries. I'm in the middle of deals that involve real estate, entertainment, digital media. We just looked very closely at a company and the shoe manufacturing business. So it's not like any particular industry.
Mm-hmm. Well, fascinating. So the shoe industry, is that here in the United States that you were looking at that? Really?
Yes.
So I thought all the shoe manufacturing had gone overseas. Is this a
This
startup?
is distribution.
It's a what?
No, it's a big distribution company. They're a big. They distribute European made product.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. So I like to find out more about you as a person and individual, and how it is you came to be who you are. So can you tell us a little bit about a memorable experience from your childhood?
A memorable experience from my childhood. Well, when I was young, one of the things that I studied was I started when I was like 4 years old. I studied learning how to play the trumpet, and eventually I was brought into. I made it all the way in my elementary school into the Detroit All-City Band, and I watched all the drummers up at the top, and I said, that's what I want to do. So about maybe around 8 or 9, I switched to percussion and became very proficient in percussion. But music has always been a fabric and part of my life.
As a performer and also as business entrepreneur as well, I see. So what about the music experience? Where did you find happiness and fulfillment in that?
I just love playing. I love music. Always have, always will. I'm now involved in it as a business, but when I was younger, it was just an artistry situation. And I think because I was an artist and because I come from the creative side, I understand how people think creatively, because music is an exact science once you write it, but it's interpretive as how you perform it. And, it can be arranged in a number of different ways. And so I think it's really important to just kind of think of things in flexibility. And I kind of learned a little bit about that through that process.
Well, I played the piano as a young fellow and had aspirations. I just didn't have the talent. It takes a special talent to be a pianist. I still enjoy it, but it's there's other things in life that I can do better than playing the piano. but I love it, and I love music, and I certainly understand that aspect of finding fulfillment there. And it was, in a lot of ways, it was my redeemer throughout my adolescent years. It was just a place to go where I could just reflect and be me. So I can certainly understand that pull. So how did you go from being an artist and a creator to uh, taking that into the business world? What were some of the steps and processes you went through to get there?
So when I was young, I didn't come from any money, and but I did know how to talk to people, and I learned that my very first job that I recall was when I used to work out of my bedroom.
Hmm.
This guy paid me. I forgot if he paid me by the hour. I think he paid me by the hour. Plus, he paid me a small commission. I pick up the phone book and I just get him appointments for carpet sales.
Hmm.
And I had no idea what I was doing. He gave me no pitch script or anything like that.
Oh.
And I learned through that people will respond to you, and you won't get everybody, but you'll get, if you call 100, you'll get 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 10. And
Hmm.
you get better at it, you get more. And I used to do well with it. And I did that when I was in, I think my high school years, or early part of my high school years. And then also, I said, well, you know what, this works pretty well. So I decided to do something that was a little closer to home. And I started calling people on my own, not with him involved at that point. Again, from my bedroom, I called all my neighbors and I said, I'm starting a window washing service. Can we wash your windows on the weekend? And let's say it's $5 every time we do your windows or something. I forgot the number. And I got a number of people in the neighborhood that said yes, to the point where I couldn't handle it. And so I was in the marching band in high school, and I was the head of the drum line. So I went to all the guys in the drum line and I asked my teacher if I could post something saying, or put up a card on the wall or something saying, if you want to make some extra money on the weekends, see me about washing windows.
Hmm.
So a bunch of the kids who did, it was all local, like it was within a couple of miles of my house.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had the list of a lot of people in the neighborhood. I don't remember how we got the list, but we got a list of all the people in the neighborhood. And they were all very responsive. And if Bob was doing it, Sally would do it. If Sally was doing it, John would do it. So it was really an easy way to put it together. And as a student, I used to say, look, I'm just in high school. This is just something to earn extra income. And everybody loved that.
Hmm.
And so what happened was it got so big that, as I said, I started having the kids in my group and my band go out and wash the windows, and I'd give them $3 a house, and I'd keep $2 a house. So, and I would tell them up front, I said, there's a $5 payment every time you do the windows. Keep 3 and just give me 2. If you do 4 houses a week, and you make yourself $60 a month. That's a lot of money for a kid in high school.
Yeah.
At that time. Today it would be about, I don't know, a lot more than that. 3 times, 5 times that, 10 times that.
Something
Anyway,
like that,
yeah, something like that. So I built it up to the point where we had 50 houses. So I was picking up like about $600 a month. And my dad thought I was doing something illegal because money was flowing in and out of the house all weekend. But it was just, I told him, we're washing windows and the kids are doing it with me, my friends. And they're making some money and I'm making some money and everybody's happy, right? Well, I did that for a long time. That was making me about $10,000 a year when I was in high school. Not too
Gosh,
bad when you're a
wow,
student.
impressive.
Yeah. So eventually I got to the point in my music career where I had the opportunity to go to a music camp called Interlochen Arts Academy, one of the top music camps in the world up in northern Michigan. And they would pay me I got a scholarship for half. I had to raise the other half. Plus I had to provide my transportation in and out. So I told my dad about it and he says, well, cover your transportation costs. I said, okay. But he said, but I don't have the money to pay for your other half. So I was talking to the local janitor at my high school one day, and I was telling him about what's going on because he used to come in the band room and we would do drum lines after school. And so we'd meet him and say hi and all that stuff. And I told him, I said, look, I don't know if this is of interest to you, but I need this number of dollars. It was 600, I think I needed to finish up my going to school, the money I needed for interlocking. Because it's not, it was like about $700-800, and that was 40 years ago per summer, per person. That's a lot of money. So he said, well, I said, I have this window washing service, and I'm going to go to camp, and I'm not going to be able to service it anymore. So can you pay for my camp, and I'll give you the list? He goes, well, how many do you have on your list? I said, like 50. He said, so how much do you want? I said, like $600. That's what it's going to cost. He said, I'll make that deal. So I learned the value of lists.
That was a good deal for him. Yeah, that was a really good deal.
Great deal for him. We called everybody on the list. I said, I can't do it anymore, that I'm going off to college, but the janitor from my local high school will take care of you. If you have any questions, just call me. And everybody said, that's fine. Good luck, blah, blah, blah. So that was my first real experience with buying and selling a business. And it taught me the value of lists. It taught me the value of creating a business. It's very, obviously we didn't get licenses and all that. We were kids in high school, but he did, because of course he was a businessman, but he loved it. And it was win-win for everybody. And it gave me the funds to be able to attend music camp. That's kind of, I thought, was a pretty interesting transition from my creative activities to figuring out how to pay for my creative activities.
That's quite a story. Many components to that. So I want to go back here to the beginning. This carpet installer, carpet seller. It seems strange to me that he would go to a high school kid and ask a high school kid to be doing this cold calling for him. What was it? What did he see in you? How did you meet? How did that come about?
Well, I answered an ad. He had an ad in the local paper. It was in the Granada Hills local paper, and I answered his ad. And I really liked that kind of work because it was something you could do from your house. I also got involved in a couple other situations where I went door to door and sold boxes of candy that this guy bought for 20 cents and sold for $1.25. So he was making good money. We were making a good commission, and I learned what happens not only when you're on a telephone, but when you're in front of somebody at their door, and you have to dress right, you have to look nice, you have to have all the things, you have to know your presentation and all that. And I used to do pretty well at that, but I really found that the whole idea of being able to speak with people, carry myself well, and all that, really was the whole way that I made the transition, because anything involving sales runs any industry. It does, You could have accountants and CPAs, you could have all those people, but you have to have sales. Because if you don't have sales, you don't have a business, right? So that's where I concentrated my efforts, is in how to make sales, learn how to do sales, and it's just transitioned into where we are today. Everything's basically the same. The numbers are much bigger, the people are much more sophisticated, but the model is basically the same. We call people all the time that we don't even know and make offers to buy their businesses. I called a guy yesterday, last Friday, and offered him $25 million to buy his company. And he said, how do you know I want to sell my company? I said, I don't know if you want to sell your company. I just know that we're interested in buying it. And he said, well, we'll talk about it. So I have a meeting with him later this week. But it really comes down to the same thing, being comfortable enough to call people, be honest with them, be able to back up what you say, and be able to back up what you do. But to answer your question, basically, it was all about wanting to find a way that I could do something with my minimal skill sets at that point, which were getting better, to be able to create income while I was studying music. Because a lot of people that are in the music, they just never can figure out how to create income. They can't make that transition, and it's hard.
Yeah.
But I was able to comfortably make that transition, and it served me through my whole life.
Well, you were saying that as you started this out in your bedroom, that he didn't have a script for you. He wasn't providing any training or guidance. Did you just pick that up intuitively, or who was guiding you, or where was it all coming from? That's, I mean,
I
it's a,
spoke,
go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry. No, I spoke with him on the phone,
Hmm.
and he would tell me some things. We had a meeting one time, and he said, this is the kind of stuff you need to see. He may have given me a script. I don't remember. But whether they gave me a script or not, I just started making calls, you know. And of course, at first, it's very scary,
Hmm.
because you're hanging the phone and you're nervous and your hands are shaking and all that. But you know what? You do it 5, 10, 20, 30 times, it becomes very repetitious and you become much more comfortable with it. And the more comfortable you are, the more comfortable the people are on the other side,
Right.
So, and they know when you're new. They know for sure that, when you don't really know your business, and that's okay. I mean, I used to tell people I'm a student in school. I'm just doing this to make a little extra money on the side, and that's it. I'm going to school. I'm studying seriously in my music and plan to perhaps be a professional musician. So that may have led to it as well. That my student activity, it wasn't like I was 35 years old and calling, from my house because that was all I could find. It
Hmm.
wasn't like that at all.
Hmm.
But it was really a great learning experience, no question about it.
Well, yeah, no doubt about that. Um, so you said you didn't come from a family with means. Uh, did you find any inspiration in your parents, or was this just totally from you?
Absolutely. And my dad for sure.
Hmm.
My mom was more into being a psychologist and stuff like that, so we didn't really have a whole lot of that in common, although it was my mom.
Uh-huh.
But my dad and I got along great, and he always supported everything I did, and he was amazed at some of the things that I would do. And I would tell him, like I told him when I sold the company, I said I sold the company so I could have the money to go to music camp. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I
Uh-huh.
said, I don't know what I need to do, but you have to sign some papers because I'm under 18. And he said, okay. So he just signed the papers. It was very simple stuff. It was like a one paragraph thing.
Yeah.
And, but he signed it and I signed it. It was my first contract that I signed
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
And but he gave me a lot of guidance through my life for sure.
Well, that's good. Um, so every successful person has had to deal with setbacks and hardships. Uh, can you share with us a major setback in your life, and how
Sure.
was it that you dealt with it?
Well, certainly one of the major setbacks that's recent is my cancer.
Right. Uh-huh.
And, people think when you have cancer that it's the end of a lot of people are afraid of it.
Hmm.
I'm not afraid of it. And I think that you have to go in with the attitude as you're going to beat it.
Hmm.
And I have a very, very good oncology group that I'm working with at Cedars-Sinai Hospital.
Hmm.
And I remember at one point my doctor said to me, I was working and doing my business and trying to keep up with everything, but I was getting sicker and sicker. And so I had to do something. And so he said, you can do a stem cell because you qualify, I think, for a stem cell. And I originally didn't want to do it. I thought, oh my God, a stem cell, what have I heard? But it's the fear of not knowing,
Right.
is really something. You've got to get over that fear if you're going to do anything. And the fear is, and the opposite of fear is knowledge, right? So my wife and I dug deep into how stem cell works. We read a lot of stuff. We talked to people. We had stuff sent to us, and then we had multiple meetings at the hospital.
Hmm.
And one of the things that you have to do when you're going through a stem cell at Cedars-Sinai is you have to qualify psychologically
Hmm.
because you can't. They don't want you in the stem cell, and when you think in the middle of it, you're not going to make it. You're going to be crying and screaming or whatever. They want people that think, I'm going to get to the other side and this is temporary. And that's how you have to think. And we passed, and I did the stem cell. And it was a life-changing event, no question, because I had to adjust. Like right now, everybody's on lockdown, right? A lot of people. California's on lockdown. Certainly a lot of the country is. And if they're not, they probably should be. And for me, I've worked as an independent in many places in my life, and I've been an independent on my own in a remote environment where I can do my work from anywhere in the world for many years now.
Mm.
And so the pivot for me was not that substantial when everybody had to move away from their offices, because I used to have an office in Century City, which is one of the most prestigious places in Los Angeles. But I just at one point said, what's the point? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with today's technology, with the phone, the computer, like what we're doing right now with, Skype, and just now it's just all this stuff, in the cloud, you can go anywhere and do your work. And so I think I'm just going to work from my house because I like my home, and my wife's here, and it's just been a very good thing. But, I think the most important thing about all that is that you really have to be willing to uh, accept when something comes in front of you that is a big blockade, right? You have to figure out how to either, like when I was in production for many years as a production auditor, production manager, and stuff like that. And one of the guys I worked with used to tell me, if you can't go through the dam, you go over the dam, under the dam, you fill the hole in the dam. You figure out an option, because we always had to be figuring out options. You got 75 people on a set, and got a director and you got the producers and you got the crew and everything else, and different people have different things they need at different times, and you have to be able to change your position and move along fluidly through that situation. And I think it's true in any situation. You have to be able to conquer the fear, and the only way you conquer the fear, I think, is with knowledge. Because if you don't have the knowledge, it's very scary, especially in my circumstances, a life-threatening situation. But I didn't look at it as, anything other than temporary. And it was the most difficult thing I ever did physically when it comes to my health. But, today I'm in remission. I did the stem cell. Remission doesn't mean extinction. It just means they can't see it in a microscope.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike something where they may cut a piece of your body out. They can't cut out your bloodstream. But they can put you in remission. You take certain medicines and a chemotherapy treatment and such like that. But it's not as invasive as certainly a stem cell. So I guess the big point here, and the story point, is that you have to be able to conquer your fear, and you have to conquer fear through knowledge.
Good advice there. Listeners just tuning in here today, my guest is Ken Sheppard, a self-described industry agnostic who invests in all kinds of alternative investments, and he has a fascinating life, and I've certainly enjoyed being with him today. Ken, we're coming to the end of our time here. I've got one last question. But before we get to that, can you share with our listeners how it is that they can get in touch with you?
Well, certainly. You're welcome to reach me by email. And the email address is FCI, that's Frank Charlie India, at Pacbell, PACBELL.net. That's the best way, because if you call me, it's really hard to get back to everybody. It really is.
Yeah.
If you text me, there's no paper trail. But if you email me and mention the show in your subject line, then I'll know that you're coming through the show. And if you don't hear from me off of that, then call my office, 310-358-7087. You can also look up my credentials on LinkedIn under my corporate name, Creative, CREATIVE. Flips, FLIPS Incorporated. It's a California corporation in good standing. And what else? Let's see. Those are the best ways to reach us, for sure.
Okay, excellent. My last question is, and I ask this of all of my guests, when you do come to the end of your journey in this life, how would you like your epitaph to read?
Helped others.
Helped others. Well, you certainly seem like you have done a lot of that, and you have a very fascinating life. In this few minutes we've been together, I think we've just scratched the surface. So I do indeed, I hope that we can have some future conversations and
Sure.
find out more about your very fascinating life here.
Thank you.
So Ken, thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.